Welcome back to episode 15 of the After Duty Hours podcast. I'm your host, Renee Flores Jr. If this is your first time tuning in with us, we have a disclaimer, and it states that this podcast has no affiliation with Ramstein Air Base, U.S. military branches, or the U.S. government. Introducing our guest this episode is Daniel Colacino. Sorry about that.
Yes.
I don't know why I always struggle with names. I guess my strength was always math, so but
It's all
Colacino.
Right. Yes.
What's the right pronunciation of it?
If you want to do it by the Italian way, it's Colacino.
Colacino.
Is, how it's
Daniel
authentically
Colacino.
said. Yes.
There you go. All right. I saved myself there.
No worries.
How you doing, man?
Been a good day so far, coming towards the end of the day, so it's been good. I really want to thank you guys for the opportunity, your crew, for letting me come on here and share my story.
Yeah. That's kind of what I wanted to ask you. So how did you hear about this?
Well, recently, obviously we'll get more into my story, but when I was starting to come back and I wanted to do advocation more, and I was looking for outlets in a way. So my supervisor was really helping me out. He was reaching out. He brought up that there was this After Hours podcast and how I believe it was a top 3 or someone on some sort of council kind of plugged you in.
First 4.
And First 4 council, and kind of wanting to share my story. And so obviously we got connected through there, and now I'm here.
Yeah, well, that we're happy to have you, man.
Thank you.
I know. I don't know if you've seen any episodes so far, but what do you think about kind of like what we do here, like even just the set that we're in, and kind of what After Duty Hours stands for, which is just kind of giving everyone a platform to kind of bring everyone together. We're all in the military, but at the same time, when we take our tops off, like we don't have a rank on. We're just normal human beings, and then we can take care of each other. You know what I'm saying? Look out for one another because we are overseas. We're not close to home.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, some people need others to lean on.
Definitely. First of all, I think as you said earlier, it's you pointed out the sign behind you, and I kind of like the relaxed feeling of it. It's one of those things how you talk about we take off that top off at the end of the day. And I think it kind of hones in the after duty, as you say. We're taking that.
I love the title, man.
It's a really good title, and I think it kind of brings that old traditional way of just a couple of people without rank going to meet up at a local place and just sitting there and having a good conversation. Good friends, whether it be through other friends or just talking about our commonalities, so to speak. Since we wear that uniform, I think across all branches, when you talk with people, regardless of rank, you find sort of similar experiences. The daily,
like they're no different. They're just human. I mean, I'd hate to bring up. No, I won't bring it up. But it was just a video game reference. I don't know if it was important or not. It was about Halo.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you played Halo?
I have played Halo. I grew up playing Halo, so.
I think might as well bring it up because maybe I think it was Halo 4. Towards the end, whenever I forgot the commander's name of the ship that they were on, and he just lost Cortana. Spoiler alert, sorry. And he was saying, like, we're just humans. We're not robots. Like you're following orders, but like you're human too. Like we're not robots. So like you shouldn't be treated as such. Because Master Chief is some sort of like, I don't know, like looked at as like, like he's always doing something straightforward because of the orders and whatnot. Or I don't know. I guess that kind of steers off when Halo 5 when he starts doing his own thing. But it's still kind of same point and whatnot. But let's get to know Daniel just a little bit before we get into our main topic. So give us your hometown, family backgrounds, whatnot. I did a little research. You're from California, right?
Indeed, I am.
Okay, cool.
So I was born in 2002. I was a little, coming in the military, a lot of the older folks were like, wow, 2002, man, we already hit that decade of people joining. So I joined in April of 2021. But to start off with my story, I was born in Apple Valley, California. I was born and raised there for 18 years. Then I worked out of high school for about a year.
Okay.
Afterwards, I decided to join the military, and my parents moved up north. They now live in Montana, so that's where I kind of claim my residency now.
Okay.
But that's all in the process of while I was joining the Air Force. Once I got into the Air Force, I did my couple months there. I chose the job security forces. Sometimes you'll hear people get thrown in that career field. It's something I really wanted to do.
Yeah. Rewind back a little bit. What caused you to join the military? Because we've heard like money, we've heard family issues, we've heard like just instead of going to college, you wanted to do college and in the military. What was kind of like the story getting into the military? Because you said you worked after high school, and then I'm guessing maybe it didn't work out after a year. You were kind of thinking maybe I should do something else.
I kind of, if you asked me from a younger age, if you asked my younger self, I knew I was going to join the military. It was just a matter of timing, I think, so to speak. I grew up reading a lot of books. My big thing was reading books when I was a kid. A lot of kids, go outside, play sports. And while I did do that, I was more pulled to history and learning of the history. So I learned about, when I was really young, was like General Patton, General Eisenhower, some of these great generals, and just the way that they kind of describe the feeling of a big team accomplishing a goal. That's why when I got into sports, I started loving to coach sports more. But growing up as a kid, you kind of see what was happening in Iraq and Afghanistan. I would see it on the news. I was very in tune with geopolitical stuff. And as a little kid, I had like this feeling of I wanted to do something like that because it felt it was bigger than me. So I understand that the cheesy thing is I joined to fight for my country. But that's truly why I joined. It wasn't for travel or money. I mean, that's certainly pluses. I've gotten the benefits of that. But growing up as a kid, it was something like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm definitely going to do the military. And I got out kind of in high school. I kind of fell out in love with it a bit because I'm like, why would I want to go somewhere where people are going to tell me what to do all the time? But as I was kind of getting into the workforce, I just wanted a bigger purpose. I didn't see myself doing a regular job.
Did you find yourself in like just this continuous loop of like you're just working, go home, eat, sleep, do something, and then it just like you kind of flash forward and you're like, man, am I going to be doing this for the rest of my life? That's how I felt.
Definitely. And then it just, more over time, I was like, you know what? I want to be in the military. So I reached out to all the branches recruiters, getting all information from them, benefits from them, even though they're kind of regardless the same along the baseline. But for me, it was more in tune that the Air Force seemed better. I had to find the recruiter a little bit around my local area. But he was also the least pushy. He gave me good insight. He said, hey, go home. Look at the jobs, but he says, look at the jobs, but also look at people's perspectives that are in that job. He wasn't trying to sell me on a recruiter's vision, typically, of where they're trying to meet their numbers. He was trying to sell me on, for me to be in the military, that I wanted to actually do it. So
I had someone similar like that too, for sure. I really do appreciate him. I mean, I have his name somewhere in my phone, but his number changed because he's constantly traveling, and he's not in, in my hometown, Houston anymore, but I totally feel you on that level of like, it was different. Like it didn't feel like he was almost making me, sign the paper for sure.
No, definitely. And that's why it was just like a big motivation. I guess you could say I got more blue throughout that whole process. Landed on security forces, and out of all the other jobs, it was more of like, I want to do this. That's what I want to do. I've kind of, not so to say I've had a background in law enforcement growing up, but my family has been really involved with law enforcement in the past, and so it's just something I grew up as a kid. I'd watch Cops and I'd be like, well, that seems cool. But also now I kind of have the benefit of being a cop but also being in the military at the same time, continuing both services, and it's been a really good opportunity, so to speak.
Well, that's cool, man. Is this your first duty station here?
No, this is going to be my second duty station. I originally, when I joined after tech school in San Antonio, I went to South Korea, Kunsan Air Base. It was a blast. Wonderful year. Sometimes I think I should have stayed there. It was just really fun. The friends I met, there were challenges that were, came with it when I first got there. I think, that's where sometimes I ran into some first struggles, but I think everyone runs through those. You're fresh out of tech school. You don't really have a whole lot of friends as you go to your new base. You want to make an impression on the job. And I'm in a foreign country, thousands of miles away from home. But more, the culture for that base was there's no military dependence over there. It's strictly military personnel. And so the flight I worked on had a really good opportunity of getting close. We did a lot of cool things outside of work together. So that really formed a bond. They said it's like the closest you can get at a deployment without having to go on a deployment. And it was really a good opportunity, and I was really thankful for it. I got my follow-on, which is here at Ramstein, which is actually the first base I wanted to go to. Just because I'm a big history nerd, so being in the middle of Europe, being able to travel through all of Europe and seeing all those historical things would have been awesome. But it worked out in the end. Got the base, and so far, it's been good.
How long have you been here?
I arrived here back in January of earlier this year.
Okay, cool. So you're coming up on a year. Have you been to any of those places yet?
Oh, definitely. So far to speak, my favorite place is Munich by far. The castles, the history culture around there with World War II being, a big start of where all that stuff happened. So the traditional German culture. I've been out to Luxembourg, more across Germany, going to different places that have had those types of historical events, and it's been really, really inspiring to go see that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool, man. I haven't been to many parts of the Germany, but that's kind of like what I guess like chose to do because I felt like I don't know. I didn't look into a lot of research, and I feel like when you do spontaneous things, you spend a lot more money. So my planning was a little bit off, and now that my wife is pregnant, we're choosing not to spend an amounts like a money to.
Got to save up for the baby.
Yeah,
Congratulations, by the way.
Because I mean, people keep they keep telling me how expensive it's gonna be. So I mean, I believe it, but we've definitely been helped out with the registry that we have.
That's good. That's good.
But we can come back to kind of like a little bit more military stuff, but I want to get like what your hobbies are. Like you already said you mentioned reading. Do you still like read today?
Oh, yes, daily. At least multiple times a day, at least before I go to bed. Some of my other hobbies include I like to run. Been perfecting my running over a while. Recently, I've gotten more into rucking.
Okay.
I love doing that. So being outdoors, I like outdoor activities, as well as reading, listening to music. I would consider a hobby. I like all types of music. I'm not a particular person. I can listen to a variety of things. You check out my playlist, and
you just go on Spotify or Apple, whatever it is, and you're just constantly doing similar artists, and then that's something I do too. And finding music is definitely could be a hobby. Just like if you were like in a vinyl store, like a producer,
Definitely.
like you're looking for that next sample that you can use and whatnot. Let's see, outside music, reading, running, rucking. Anything else?
Sports mainly too. I mean, it doesn't. I'm not the best at sports, but
you like to watch them.
I love to watch them. I've been able.
What are some of your teams?
So if you ask me what type of sport I have, I promise you I have a team for that. For soccer, obviously FC Bayern Munich. For NFL, love my Hawks. Go Seattle. So they're on a good winning streak so far.
Yeah.
Hockey, Golden Knights, Vegas. I recently got into hockey. That was a team I just got attracted to. They were new in the sport, so I said might as well follow them. And baseball, growing up in LA, Dodgers. It's like either Dodgers or Angels that you kind of see.
Yeah.
Went to a lot of Dodger games growing up.
Yeah. You didn't like the Astros in 2017?
No, especially ever since everything came out with them.
Yeah. But they came back and won though.
I mean, maybe with a couple of trash can beats, they probably had their help.
Nah,
but
not in 20. What was it? 2020 or 2021?
Yeah, I think it was 2020.
I'm from Houston, that's why.
Yeah, I would assume you're probably an Astro fan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not like a hardcore fan, but my family's kind of like, even my dad was disappointed about it. But he was telling me like everyone was doing it, they just got caught. That's the thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, you see a lot of sports teams take advantage of what they can't take advantage of.
Yeah,
so.
for sure. Go Saints. Oh man, where are they from? Yeah. I know. Let's say you said in NBA.
NBA, honestly, I've been in basketball. I think growing up, I went to Laker games as a kid.
Yeah.
But one of the teams I'm more drawn to, watching was the Celtics.
Okay.
Growing up, because my favorite person watching highlights of when I was a kid was Larry Bird.
Okay.
And then watching Jason Tatum now is, even though, in the finals recently he was like kind of a dud, didn't really show up in many games as he needed to. But just definitely, I would say Celtics. But growing up, I mean, I saw Laker games as well. I don't really have a particular team in NBA. Same thing with college football. College football, I kind of just like to watch the prospects.
Yeah, people love college football. I feel like people love college football way more than the NFL, man.
It's because like the amount of revenue you get from college, it's insane.
Yeah,
especially with the fan dedication. It's one of those things.
My sister actually saw. Obviously, this was back in his prime, but my sister went to A&M.
Okay.
So she went at the time Johnny Football was there as a freshman, and she was a freshman. Yeah, he would go to like some functions on campus, and she would be there too. And I don't know, that guy must have been like living his best life, bro. Like, imagine being a freshman in college, you just beat Alabama. You're in SEC for the first year. You're not doing so bad, and like everybody knows you on campus.
Got a nickname already.
Yeah, you literally, you go anywhere on campus. You're like living a famous person in college, it's just like, I don't know. That must have been wild how fast his life probably changed, bro. Like, but I mean, it's kind of sad to see where he went. Um, I mean, even Drake made a song about him. I think it was called Draft Day.
Really?
Yeah. But I don't know. To have Drake put your name in a song and
While
name
you're
it
in
after
college?
you, yeah. It was no. This was actually when he got drafted.
Okay, so this was when he went to Cleveland then?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know. That's like pretty crazy to me. But yeah, I haven't really been much into sports, man. I've been just doing esports.
Okay,
Like,
okay.
Are you don't have any esports knowledge or like any video games or whatnot?
I play video games. I do play sports games a lot, so Madden, FIFA, or EAFC as it's now called.
Yeah. Do you know like esports organizations like FaZe, Optic? And,
I've heard of them. I haven't, been too much into it. I know it's like a big thing that's up and coming. They'll hold like really big events.
yeah, they've been a thing for a long time for sure. But no, I was just curious because it's kind of crazy to see it from a different perspective. Like I don't really get too much into sports, but in esports, it's like my bread and butter. Like I'm even starting to watch League of Legends now.
Okay.
I know I've been starting to play like League of Legends, and so like I'll watch like all the stuff that I missed, and it's kind of cool to finally see a different new esport because I usually watch Call of Duty, Halo. What else do I watch? Sometimes Apex Legends, but that's pretty much it really. I don't watch a lot of esports, but I try to keep it, really tight on what I watch because if not, I'll just get overwhelmed. Like, because I don't know how so many people can keep up with all these different types of sports like soccer, hockey, basketball, and et cetera. And but yeah, let's move on to one more thing. And that's what most people don't know about you. Tell us one thing that most people don't know about you.
One thing that people don't really know about me? I would honestly say, kind of a tough. I never really think about it like that. I'm not really. Let's see. I would have to say my compassion for other people. So to speak, of not in a negative way, but it's a lot of people see me as, I want to say robotic, but like a very person that's focused on getting the mission, so to speak, as you'll hear higher ups say, putting that work first. But when I do make decisions, I often think about other compassionate people because most people think of me as more of a strategic person. I utilize a strategic mindset compared to, you would say, an emotional mindset.
Yeah.
But I do keep in touch with like people's emotion. I can have that empathy for people. Okay. And I think going through a lot of people didn't see that. That's probably why when I went through my story, a lot of people were kind of shocked what I was going through when I started to open up about that. Okay.
Well, I wanted to go back to the military, but I feel like that would be a good segue into what we wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and ask, like, do you have any like last remarks on like your story about transitioning into like the military life that you wanted to share before we move on?
Oh no, we can dive right in.
Okay. I wrote something. I don't want to get it wrong, and I want the listeners to know that the topic we're about to discuss is very sensitive, and we want to warn our listeners that if you are battling depression, that you are not alone, and to seek professional help. And without further ado, we want to know, you said you've battled depression and contemplating suicide. So let's start from the beginning of how it all happened.
So the way I best describe like my situation that I went through, and to this day, it was a lot of stuff growing up as a kid. My biological father wasn't really involved much in my life. So growing up as a kid without a father figure for a little while before my stepfather came into my life, it's definitely a difficult thing to battle because your mother can only do so much. I watched my mother struggle. She had me at 16 years old, which is really tough for a lot of women. And instead of, taking, an easier route of just putting me up for adoption, as people suggested to her, she rather took me in and said, I'm going to raise him. And so growing up as a kid, my mom being single, holding 2 jobs for a while, fighting that fight, you kind of grow up with it as a kid. But also, she could only do so much as a mother that really can't fit in for the father stuff. So the typical things that, happen with father, and it's playing, baseball, or, teaching you how to ride a bike, simple things like that. Or when I would have my sports games, not having that figure, so to speak, in the stand. So growing up in life, I pulled away from a lot of people trying to have those father figures. But what I would do in life growing up is I would look for validation, because my father at some point was still around. He would come in and out. I'd go see him every other weekend. But, I would do things to prove my value to him. I think that happens with a lot of people when they're trying to get attention from a significant other in a relationship, is they're looking for that validation. So at the point I was doing things, so to speak, to get his attention, rather than, doing it for myself, benefiting. So that was one thing I struggled with a lot. And then eventually, one day, I believe he went to a court hearing with my mom, debating the child support. At this point, he had married another woman, had another kid, and was trying to, in his words, provide for that kid. And he made the point of saying, well, from what I got across, from what I've heard, was that, well, his stepfather's in his life. Why do I have to take care of him? And so as, I was about 14, I want to say, 13 when I heard that. That really, it hurt at the time. But instead of, saying, going through the motions that I should have done and process that properly, I was like, you know what? I don't care. And my mom's like, oh, are you sure you're fine? I go, no, I don't care. I put it away. Forget him. I don't need to talk about that. And so I just went forward with it. But in reality, behind the scenes, it did really bother me, because it made me wonder, why am I not that important? And so... But at that time, I dusted it off. I now have my stepfather's last name. Me and him are really close. He's who I call my father. He had been there for me in moments in life. But, it's definitely a different relationship versus a biological father. I think people who've had that situation completely understand that. And so that was kind of where it brewed.
It's almost like you're truly best friends.
Yes. And it's really awesome to see that me and him have such a good relationship now, because at first, me and my stepfather kind of struggled at first. But we're way past that, and it's a really good relationship now. And so that was kind of one of the big things. And then right before I joined the military, I had my grandmother. She passed away on my mom's side. Me and her were very, very close, to the point where she's like a second mom, so to speak. Because when my mom would go off and work, she would be the one that would pick me up from school, watch me, and we did a lot of activities together. And as she grew older, she had health complications, and she was overweight, but she lost that weight, but it had a negative impact on her health. She was going through dialysis. And at that point, in my young teenage years, I kind of transitioned from more being a grandson to also being a caretaker. She would sometimes need a walker, and I would help her with that. A cane, I would help her what she needed to do. I would help watch my little brother when she would have to step in when both my parents would work. And so I got in a lot more close relationship with that. And so when the loss happened in the family, we kind of knew it was going to come around, because she just got so tired of being on dialysis. It's you're going there at least 4 to 5 times a week. Your blood's being drained out of you, then re-put back in you. And it was, instead of her doing that for 20 years and eventually passing away and just being in constant pain, she just said, you know what, I'd rather just, not want to live through that pain. So when she passed away, it was definitely difficult, but instead of processing my emotions, I just put it down. The same thing I did with my dad's situation. I put it aside, because my mom was really grieving with that. It took my mama, it hit her really hard. And so I tried to, be that son, be strong for her. And I never really let it process for me. And so that's something else I put away. And I just was like, you know what, it happens. I get over it. But in reality, I never got over it. And then so coming into now, getting into the military, obviously, right when I was leaving Korea, I was really riding a high, because at this point I had been given some really good opportunities. I was really excelling at my job, and I was given opportunities to be in positions where it's notably more for NCOs, or maybe even a senior NCO, of doing those positions. But my leadership had faith in me. My flight leadership had faith to say, you know what, we'll give it to him. And so people came to me with, the job knowledge. Often when we get new NCOs on flight chiefs would kind of pass off that person to me and kind of show them around base, kind of show them what we do, because first, a lot of people in Korea, they kind of take a step back, they relax, and they may be not as doing their job as much, but I love the job, and I was actively going out there. And so I had that faith in me. When big base exercises would come around, I was given opportunities to perform as a truck commander, which is generally an NCO, or at least a senior airman's position. And so I walked into work feeling really good, because I had so much trust in me, and I had so much responsibility, I felt, as a flight trainer as well, that it was really awesome. And then I came here to this base, and it was definitely a struggle, because then it's a much larger base, and I kind of got put back down to where the A1C kind of operates in. I kind of lost that responsibility of what I had. And so I had to fight to make my name again.
Yeah.
And it was really difficult because I'm trying to prove myself, but I'm also kind of being held back. It was like, well, you got to, that's a little higher ranking position. You can't really, do that.
Yeah.
And, so trying to prove my worth. So constantly going into work and doing so. And I'm a person, I talk about it here in my story as well, but when I was going through my whole mental health treatment, they call it a schema, so to speak, and these are things that people have in their personalities that can be picked up but can have a negative impact. And one of my things was it was self-like responsibility, but also unrelenting standards, to the point where I would put unnecessary standards on myself to accomplish. So if I was given a task, I would go 130% beyond. And while that can be helpful, but what the negative part was, it was going into my mental health. It was deteriorating that because I would let myself get physically tired from it and emotionally tired from it. And when I would fail to meet these objectives or these tasks that I had set out for myself, I would, instead of reflecting and moving on, which is a positive way, what I would do, and what a lot of people do, especially in the military, is they look back and they ruminate. And as my therapist called it, is shoulding yourself, is, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. If I did this better, I could have done that. And that is just negative. That's ruminating. It's not doing anything positive, but you're just doing negative affirmations towards yourself. And that could really lead you down to a spiral. And so that's what happened a lot. I would run into blocks here, and I would start going down that big spiral, down that big hole. And then I would start getting negative thoughts. And so when that was happening, I would think about things that ultimately I wasn't responsible for, but I would put that responsibility on me, even though it shouldn't have been. I was taking other people's faults and making them my own, which was not something I should have been. I should have not been, saying the reason my father left out was because of me. It wasn't because of me. It's because he just wasn't, wanting to do that. Yeah. And, it happens in life. You're going to have people in your life that are not going to want to be in your life, but you're going to try to salvage, if you're going to try to salvage that relationship, so to speak. But it does come to a point where you're like, okay, it's not going to work out, and you kind of go your separate ways. And I think it's making your peace with that situation is, as long as you gave it your all in that relationship, like with my father, I gave it everything I possibly could. Yeah. But he failed to meet it. Relationships are 50-50, whether people, want to try to misconstrue that. It takes two to, whatever relationship, whether it be romantic or just in family, it takes 50-50. Friendships. Yeah. So if it's, come to a point where you're given 100 and the other person's given 0, it is okay to move on. It's, as long as you gave it your all, I did everything I needed to do. It's okay. That's what nowadays I tell people when I talk to them. If they're going through a rough time, I say, hey, if you gave it your all in that situation, it's okay to say, you know what, you put your hands up. I did all I could. Yeah. And moving on. Same thing with, I tell people now, when I went through, so I'll get more into the story, but when I was going through mental health treatment, I had someone relate to me that it's not the trauma Olympics, so to speak, because that's one thing that held me back from getting help for such a long time is
to see how long you can go out or something?
So to speak with that, but also in the military, especially nowadays, you'll see people who have been in longer, they have seen some horrendous stuff. People have been through really bad, horrible situations. Yeah. And I was sitting like, well, my situations don't need that kind of help. I don't want to take away resources from someone who has seen combat-related experience or has had more hardships. And so walking with that mentality is what prevented me from getting help for such a long time. But when someone told me, trauma is, we're not in a trauma Olympics. Everyone has their own struggles. And so now I tell people to validate their struggles. If they're going through those struggles, acknowledge them, and it's okay to ask for help. Go through the right people. Look for your support system. Yeah. And it's okay. We shouldn't be comparing traumas of, so this person had worse than what I had. Yeah. We shouldn't be doing that because we all handle certain situations differently.
Exactly. So when did you see your situation really down spiral? What were you and where were you at the time where it was like at rock bottom? Like, how was that?
So I knew something was wrong when I had a self-preparatory behavior is what they call it. When I started having preparatory behavior to end my own life, so to speak. And to the point where it was, I would go home and I would shut out the outside world completely. I have friends here, and there's 2 really good friends that I have stationed here that me and them have been in same B&T flight together. We went to the same first base, and now here we're in the same career field. But to the point where I wasn't reaching out to them. People would ask to hang out with me, and I wasn't feeling it. And the activities that I loved or enjoyed doing, I would get no enjoyment out of them. I would try to go do them, be like, okay, let me go do this, but to the point where I would do it and I just couldn't do it. I would go home, and instead of, after a work day, we have our relaxing activities. If you might just be hanging out with your wife, or for me, it's going home and sitting back, relaxing, watching a movie, maybe reading a book, making dinner. To the point where I was going home, I didn't do any of that. I would try to watch TV. I'd be like, I can't feel it. I turn it off. Try to play video games. I can't do it. Try to go in the gym, and it would just be like, I'd be there for 10 minutes. I'm like, I'm just not feeling it. I'd go home, sleep, and I'd wake up, and I'd still feel restless, so to speak.
Yeah.
There'd be times where I'd stay up all night, and I wouldn't get any sleep. I can go up to, I would say, almost 72 hours without sleep in some of these days, and go to work, do a 12-hour shift. And I was kind of, as I say, putting a mask on, or as a knight puts on a shield of armor. That's what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so I knew that I was getting bad at that point. So that's when I first...
How long did that go for?
I want to say it got really bad when I came here to Ramstein, because adding on to what they call like the PCS blues, is that I was going through that.
Okay.
Hitting those roadblocks at work. I would say I was dealing with depression for about 2 years, because depression does run in my family. There has been, my therapist has possibly told me that it could be a genetical thing, that it's the way that it's passed on through generations is depression can be genetic, and when you go through a traumatic experience or a bad time, it's depression that can be activated, and it can be severe. I don't have any data to prove that that's what I have is genetic, but I would say I was dealing with depression for about 2 years, but it wasn't bad, because in Korea, at that point, I was really close to my flight, and there's people there to talk to. I felt that I could go and reach out to those people. But then when I got here, I kind of felt more distance. I had my 2 friends here as well, but we work 2 different shifts, so I don't work with them.
Yeah.
So sometimes trying to hang out in those after hours is really tough.
Yeah.
You kind of work out, oh, we're off this weekend, let's hang out this weekend, but it's not so often.
Yeah.
And so I think that's when it started getting really bad. So for the past year, I would say it was really bad, severe depression, but overall, I was probably battling depression for about 2 years without really noticing it, because there was times where I would reach hardships in my career, and I would really get down on myself. But I had a good support system to kind of help me pull it out of me and get me out of that situation. Versus when I got here, I didn't really have that support, so to speak. I hadn't well developed. My support system's gotten really strong since I've been here, since I've gone through everything. But at the beginning, it was kind of like not really having anywhere to turn.
Yeah.
So I knew it was getting really bad then. So that's when I eventually did call a friend one night when I was having that preparatory behavior. I went to mental health after I went to a alarm C for an emergency stay. And I got to mental health.
Why did you have the emergency stay?
It's protocol. It's what fire does when they're dispatched to something.
Okay.
Fire, ambulance, so does security forces. It's generally protocol to say go to the hospital, because they just want to make sure, they want to do blood work to make sure, because there's many different ways people will try to end their own life, and they just want to make sure that I didn't take anything in my system, so to speak, as well. So
is this when you got to your low point, and how did you said you're contemplating suicide? When did that actually happen?
So that would probably be probably earlier this year, probably around late middle May, early June is when it got severe, where they call it passive suicidal ideation, and that stuff whereas I wake up and I go, oh man, if a plane just came through and crashed in my room right now, I wouldn't complain. Or you're walking down the street and you're like, oh, if this bus hit me, I wouldn't care. And that's what they call passive suicidal ideation in the medical field. And to the point where I was starting to have that since I got here in the beginning of the year. But later in May and early June, it's when I started saying, you know what, this is how I'll do it. This is how I'm going to take my own life. This is the things I'm going to follow through. And I would have, basically, it's almost like an outline. Oh, this is how it's going to happen. I'll write this note, and then this will be done.
Man, that's some deep stuff, man. Seriously, because, I mean, getting that bad and actually starting to plan it out, and maybe even writing it out, or thinking about what the note's gonna say, like that. At that point, it feels like, oh, it's getting serious.
Yes.
So, I mean, in that time that you were doing that, like, you really felt shut off from everyone.
Definitely.
And that wasn't your own doing, right? Or was that your own doing?
It was my own doing, yes.
Okay.
I as I reflect now to where I am now versus then,
it's because you didn't open up.
Yes, it was. So I attribute that to my own doing. because I didn't properly seek the way that I should, and
Yeah.
so that's when I had that first blip. I started reaching out, started going to places, but when I first went to when I first went to mental health, so to speak, it was all right. I felt like I was taking the right steps. So I say that was definitely downward spiraled. I did have a relapse on my recovery, so to speak, on my road. And that's typical. Generally, whether you're battling depression, alcohol, substance abuse, it's very common for a person to have a relapse in that field. And so I went to mental health. I got my first appointment. It felt like I was just, explaining my situation. At the time, I was having to explain my situation to multiple people.
Yeah. Repeating it.
Yes, and it got really exhausting. And then mental health here, I'm not discrediting them in any sort of way, but it's they have a lot of people that they have to seek, and they have to process everyone with a fair right. And so
I think I heard that it takes about a month of evaluation or something like that.
And so they're not able to guarantee you an appointment with a therapist every week. And so a lot of times you have to go to a group, and it's a group setting, but it felt like I really didn't feel like I was getting what I needed out of a group, because I thought that some of the techniques, while they can be beneficial, it didn't feel like they were addressing my problems with what I was going through.
Yeah.
It'd be things like breathing techniques, or how do we find
The purpose or something.
yes, and I'm like I need to address my issues. I need to address my problems.
One-on-one probably would have been more effective.
Definitely, and that's what I think what I was trying to do. And my support system was coming out. My flight leadership reached out. Everyone was really supportive. I had people on flight that were more than willing to come to my aid. I had people that would come in and be like, hey, man, let's go do this, and trying to get me out of the house. But while trying to get better throughout that whole time, it was a struggle, because I'm like, I'm not addressing my problems.
Yeah.
I'm still not getting through it. I feel like I'm making progress. I'm going in the right direction, but I don't have what I need.
Mm-hmm.
And so probably about a month later, I had a relapse in early July, to the point where I was going to do it. To the point where I got everything set up again. I was going to do it. I was like, really, I was going to do it this time. I made a long letter, so to speak, on my laptop, and it's something where I was like, it was really emotional to deal with. I was just so tired. It's really exhausting. As I tell people, a lot of people, sometimes get confused if they haven't really had depression in their life. They'll be, oh, I've experienced sadness. And sadness is a valid emotion, but it's more of as I consider, a temporary emotion. When you go through sadness, it's definitely like a phase, so to speak. You could be sad this in the morning, but after work, or, you have a good event, you could be happy later on. Depression, as I explain it, it's with you with every waking hour of the day. I wake up, I feel exhausted.
It's almost lingering in a way.
It's lingering. Every day you wake up, it doesn't go away. And that's what I was going through. I'd wake up exhausted, emotionally and physically exhausted. I'd go through the entire day at work. I was still feeling the same way, going home, going to sleep, same way. It's just a repetitive process. So depression is both physically and mentally exhausting. It's not something that just goes away. So at this point, I started with a little bit of medication that's to kind of help me, but it really wasn't doing a whole lot. And then once that kind of happened again, once I had my relapse, I went to work the next day. I didn't do anything, which was definitely really good. And I was at work, and so at this point, I'm DNA'd, but I'm still helping out around with work. One of my buddies at work notices that I'm not looking so well. He's more off than usual. And he's like, hey, man, like, what's going on? Like, you don't look good. I'm like, I'm fine. I just want to work today. He's like, no, man, like, what's up? He's like, tell the truth. And so I told him the truth. He reached out to our leadership. They called out fire again. They came out to where I was working, and then they sent me back to the hospital. This time I had a 3-day stay at what they're called their inpatient facility at LARMC. And it's basically kind of a watch, but they do group therapy there. And kind of looking out and helping me more. They increased my medication, so to speak, while I was there.
Yeah.
And so I came back. After that 3-day stay, I had a lot of self-reflecting. And kind of at that point, I haven't told anyone at home that I was going through, because throughout this whole time, I didn't tell my mother or my father at all, because I didn't want to put them through that pain. Because I knew it would make them worry. Because my mom already worries as it is, being thousands of miles away from home. So she always worries about me. So putting my family through that, like, oh, I tried to do this, and they having those phone calls was really tough. Putting my friends through that as well, and it just kind of in a way kind of bolstered I need to get better, because not only for them but for me as well. I can't keep putting people through this.
Yeah.
So went back to mental health after my stay. So within like a couple, I think it was the next day.
Yeah. Can I ask?
Yes.
How did all this affect your career? Like, do you feel like it's taking you off track in a way of progression because now your leadership knows, like, oh, this person feels like this, so we probably shouldn't, progress him to the next level or something? Like, do you feel like you're restricted now that you've kind of opened up in this way?
No and yes, in a sense.
Yeah, because I feel like most people who may be going through this, that's what they're afraid of. Maybe that's why they don't want to open up, because they feel like, well, if I feel like, well, if I get sent to mental health and I'm having all these issues with myself, then they're probably not gonna allow me to be a leader or put me in a spot where I want to be one day, because now it's on my record that I'm like this.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's not the case, that's what I'm trying to inform to the listeners, like that it's like almost a misconception of like that's one of the reasons they may not want to open up, where that's not really the case.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we want to look out for one another and how we can deal with your your problem or your issue that you're going with. We want to make sure that you're okay by the end of the day.
So what I would tell the listeners is definitely it does affect your career. I know a lot of the times people say it doesn't affect your career. It's not going to change anything. It does. But not to say that in a negative way. It can affect your career in a positive way. And that's what I'm trying to turn it into, is a positive, so to speak. Not the experience of what I went through was so positive, but the outcome of is positive. Obviously, in my career field, I have what's called the use of force status. We have to, as security forces and any person who uses firearms, you want the people out there on the street that are performing that job to be in the utmost best mental capacity and physical capacity.
Okay.
So that is what's definitely regulated. And so over time, that's a big thing, especially with my career field, is the big stigma is you say something, you lose your gun. Obviously, I have lost my gun. Like right now, I'm not able to arm up because I am going through the process.
Okay.
But I will say, people, your mental well-being is more important than, so to speak, the job. Because at the end of the day, this job that we have in the military is temporary. Whether or not you do the 20 years or you do 4 years, the uniform does come off. It's more important than your mental well-being, because you can only do this for so long. We can't do this for the rest of our lives, as some people would love to do. But you have other things. There's other goals out there. There's a bigger view of life, so to speak. There's way more.
There's always that next step.
Yes.
Especially, I mean, your career is a part of your life, but that's not the point of it. You know what I'm saying? There's other things to achieve, and there's other goals that you can set. So, I mean, I really do appreciate you opening that in that way of like you have, like, now that people know that it will affect your career, that doesn't mean like somebody's going to, I wouldn't say look at you different. Obviously, they're going to take more care of you and be more, aware of your presence and make sure that you're always okay. And that's not a bad thing.
No.
And sometimes it does, I don't know, like a flip of a switch of like, if you see, like, if I've heard somebody in my work was going through something, but it's not that I wasn't paying attention to them. I was just focused on what I was doing, and I was always focusing on what I needed to do. And then it's not that I didn't care about them, but if they came out and said like they were dealing with this one, it's kind of like a blinking light in my system to where it's like that's priority. And it's not that I never cared, but now I'm shifting all my focus on what I was doing back to you, because you need to understand your value. And hey, I might be going through the same thing too. I wouldn't say depression based on my belief of what I went through, but I definitely went through some dark times, like within myself. Like I found myself like really cut off from everyone, and by my own doing, like you. I mean, I went to college, I got out, started working at a job that barely paid enough, and then I ended up moving out the house. I did that twice, I went to 2 different apartments. We had to cancel the first lease, and then I moved in by myself. And there was just this long repetition of I'm going to work at 2:30, getting out at 10:30. I'm staying up till 4. I wake up and I'm like, oh snap, 30 minutes until work. I slept the whole time. And then I'd go and then I'd do everything again. I'd be alone in the night. And then I'd do it all over again, work all day. And then the 2 days I would just stay at home, where I could have went to my parents' house. You know, they lived like 35 minutes away. Go see some family, but like I just stayed isolated and I let that build over time. And I started thinking about like, man, like my sisters are like so successful, like they graduated college and I'm over here paycheck to paycheck eating peanut butter out the jar. Not that, you know, my mom and my dad always made sure that I had money for groceries. They take care of me. But I'm saying like I felt like I was stuck. I was just like, man, like is this going to be like forever? Like, am I going to do this routine forever? 'Cause this sucks. But I didn't dwell on it too much. I just kept moving and moving and kept building and building. And I was like, man, dude, I'm such a failure. And then I started telling myself I'm a failure. Then my sister mentioned something. I think I talked about it on the podcast on one episode. We've talked and we don't hold it against her anymore. Like maybe I needed to hear that, but she said I was a waste of money because my parents would always help me because I was always dragging a lot, hitting almost zero negative in my account. But she called me a waste of money, and you know that, like maybe it's not the same, but when your dad said I don't want to take care of him anymore, that came into my mind when my sister said that all the time, and I was like, man, I am a failure. Like my parents invested us so much, and my older sisters got through it, and I couldn't learn from them, or I couldn't do it, so now I gotta, you know, do this 2:30 to 10 p.m. job, and I don't know, it just sucked, and it took a lot. And I do have a letter at BMT that I wrote to my family. I wrote it to everyone, like my sisters, my mom, and my girlfriend at the time. I said, this will be my last letter. And I know it sounds kind of crazy at first, but I just told them, this is my last letter. I will no longer spend time writing down during the writing period, the like little 10 minutes we had before bedtime. I said, for a long time I felt, you know, lost and empty, but now I feel like I'm actually doing something. I'm getting a purpose. I'm serving, and I feel like everything's coming together. And I just want to thank all of y'all for sticking with me, supporting with me, always being there for me. And that was such a powerful letter to me. Like when I got out of BMT, like I heard how much I made everybody cry. Like they all read it together and they just cried, and it was crazy. But what would you give somebody who is going through such a similar state of just heavy depression, like negative thoughts, and even contemplating suicide, already drafting out, you know, their note, you know, like what would you tell them on what could help them get out of that? Because it seems like, you know, how we were trained. I don't know I don't know what it's called. ACE. Is it ACE that Marcy, that we do? It's
AFC.
ask, care, and escort.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you read the description of escort, it doesn't say like you handle the problem. It says get a professional help, like the chaplain, or like, you know, the first sergeant, or like all these other people except me. Like like if that was happening to Marcy, my best option would be to do that instead of me just talk to him. I don't understand that in a way.
So what I would tell people is there's kind of 4 things that I use that I got from therapy that I still use, but one of the biggest things is acceptance. I think we all have to accept in our lives that there's going to be good times and there's going to be bad times, but that is extremely okay. That we're going to have roadblocks. We're going to, you know, sometimes hit those negatives or those zeros on those bank accounts, but it does, when we make the progress, it does get better. And I think when you talk about how it talks about the ACE, ask, care, escort, I think one thing I've really been advocating here is I believe that we need more mental health teaching within units for other people like us, airmen, NCOs, senior NCOs, to kind of see when someone's going through it. But I think honestly, some of the best therapy I got or best help I got is when I had those one-on-one conversations with my peers. I mean, I can go to all these different facilities, or I can go to these professionals, and they are helpful. But I think the most meaningful stuff that I got was from fellow people.
Yeah.
And that
when you can level with,
yes,
be like, oh man, this guy's going through something too, but he's not in that same state as me. So you're probably wondering how he's getting through it. And then when you see him battling it too, y'all kind of can lean on each other at that point.
Definitely. And it's, and I think that has to go without rank. I've also advocated for this. I call it like as you say, when we take off our top, we take off our rank, kind of like how this podcast is, we're kind of taking all that off.
Yeah.
I think mental health needs to be treated with a no rank, because my unit commander was absolutely awesome with dealing with this. My command team has really been supportive, but he has at moments when he's talked to me taking off that rank, so to speak, of where I still respect him for the position he's in, but when it comes to mental health, it knows no rank. It knows no station. It continuously, it doesn't matter what you're going through. And when I went through treatment, I went and met people that were going through similar situations, that were colonels, that were chiefs, that were also, junior airmen, NCOs. So that really broadened my perspective is when it comes to mental health, we need to kind of remove rank from the situation. We respect the person for the position that they're in, but when we have that like openness, I can't tell you how much it made me feel better. It was just having that conversation of my colonel saying, hey, I've gone through my own struggles. I've had my battles with certain things. Having my first sergeant say, hey, I've gone through some bad depression as well. And so it takes that perception of, oh, he's just a high-ranking person that, doesn't really deal with this stuff. It's not really him. But instead, let me come in their office and kind of taking that away. My flight chiefs, my master sergeant, my supervisor, kind of saying, hey, one-to-one talk, human, just human to human, I would say. And when it comes to mental health, I think, we're all human at the end of the day. We're human beings, and human decency shouldn't be so much to ask for from other people.
Yeah.
Because the rank does come off. We go back into the civilian world. And we go to jobs, we go to other career fields, we start a family, whatever it may be. We're all back into that civilian world, so to speak. We're still humans.
Yeah.
We are another taxpayer. We're another, civilian worker, whatever field you may work in. But it is okay to go through those struggles. It's okay to acknowledge them, whether you're a male, a female. We all have those struggles.
Yeah.
We're going to hit roadblocks in life, but that is okay. Second thing is I talk about is truthfulness, being truthful about your situation and having that inward reflection. What's been so helpful for me now is when I do run into roadblocks, when I do feel like I'm starting to get down again, is taking back, looking at myself from a third person's perspective and saying, well, why are we feeling this way? What made me feel this way? Okay, this is why this, okay. And validating my feelings, but then also acknowledging as what they call radical acceptance of, you didn't get the promotion. I know with the recent promotion cycle, some people were really hoping that they got that certain rank, with the numbers being so low. But it's one of those things is, I didn't get it this time. And that's something that you can't try to control what you can't control. Control what you can control. Okay, I didn't get it this time. Let me see where I missed a couple questions on the test.
Yeah. Or
next
where
year,
you can,
yes,
learn from it and then just start focusing on the next one.
Pushing forward. And it's okay. Not everyone's going to hit those ranks. Not everyone's going to, hit those strides that they're hoping for. We'll hit those roadblocks. And, it's just having that truthfulness with yourself. Being truthful about the situation. Be like, I can't control this. I can't control that I didn't achieve this. I didn't get here. Or I didn't get in the relationship with this person. It's okay. That is perfectly fine. We move on in life. And I think it's one of those things that's acknowledge and then moving forward is a really big thing. And so those are big things that I look at, is just kind of that acceptance and that truthfulness with everything.
Mm-hmm. And the third thing, you said 4.
Oh, yeah, fourth thing. I
feel free, man.
Yeah, I have it written down here somewhere.
Yeah. What is this for, by the way?
This is just talking points. I've kind of sat down and I like to write stuff. I like to, do speech writing. And so I just kind of go through and use it as kind of like a pamphlet or kind of talking points of what I use.
So
when
is this like your full story written down?
in a sense, it is kind of my full story written down. Kind of more
If you
more
want,
so.
we can share this as well. You just have to send it to me. That's up to you.
Oh yeah, definitely. I can definitely do that.
Yeah, we can put it in like the description or something.
Yes. Acceptance, truthfulness. I've talked about radical acceptance, and lastly, it was inward reflection. Having that inward reflection, even if you don't look at have that inward reflection in the moment, whether it's a month or a year. It's like my situation with my dad. That's ongoing. Is looking back at the situation, but I can't get mad at myself that he didn't show up. I did what I was supposed to do, and it's okay with having that inward reflections.
And like you said, sometimes it's like if he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, he doesn't want to do it.
And that's not your fault.
Exactly. It's having that. I would tell people, focus on what you can control. And what you can't control is how you feel. Yeah. What you know in that moment. And explain that. I think definitely, first of all, military, there's a big stigma with that. It's made, definitely, as I put here, that it's made strides over since it's been. I hear from people who have been in a very long time that back in the early thousands, in the 90s, it was very tough to say, I feel this way, because then you would go into a mental health facility as an active member of our armed forces, then you'd come out, and then you would be a former member. You would be kicked out. It was like, okay, he can't come back to work, like move him out. And even though I've had my struggles with my job, they have been really helpful with still keeping me involved. As I put it, for me at least, my job is not a reason for my mental health being like how it got so bad. In anything, it was saving my mental health. Going to work was at those times saving me. When I would have my time off, as many people look forward for that, during my depressive state, I was really dreading my time off because I just knew I'm like, okay, I'm going to get in really bad moods and I'm going to have like those negative thoughts. Versus when I'm at my job and then I get in the groove and I'm able to hit my strides, it feels really good. I feel really good about myself. I'm accomplishing something. I'm feeling that purpose that when I'm off work, I just don't feel like I have. Yeah. And so it was one of those things where my job is saving my mental health. And so right now, like one of my big things is as I'm coming back, I want to get my gun back. I want to get back to work.
Set goals to kind of that's your redemption arc or something like that.
The redemption arc. We could definitely say that.
And that's, I mean, that's just a stepping stone. You know what I'm saying? That's a good start because it's like after that, you get your gun back. You shouldn't go back in the same mentality of like, oh, well, I have nothing else to do now. I already got what I wanted. Yes. So you got to be prepared for that next step. And it's, that could also someone be stressful of always thinking about what the next move is because I don't think humans like to stay still. At least I don't mean that in a sense of like staying home all the time or like that, but it's like you don't want to be stuck in a routine because a routine can get dull, old, and just seem repetitive. And then you start, like I said, realizing like, oh, is this it? Is this my final, the final way of I'm going to live? You know what I'm saying? Like that. So it's always that next step. I mean, even with marriage, it's like, or having a girlfriend, that next step is, marriage. And after marriage, it's like, well, what now, Yeah. Then we're having a kid and I'm like, I don't know what my next step is, It's just like, it's exciting. It's new. And, I can't be ready for it, but I am. So.
And that's one thing that specifically for me, I love my job so much is because it's the unexpected when I go into work every day. I could just have a regular day. People come through the gate or, nothing really happens on base. And then the next day I could have, like yesterday, there was a fire. I think it was off base. I left work a little bit early. It's just those kind of like things that just kind of hit you randomly. And it's like keeps you on your toes. That's one reason I love doing my job so much. But like you say, it's having those obtainable goals, the goal that you can obtain.
Small goals are very important.
Yes, and I think with the big key thing is while I take my time with that, it's just taking every day at a time. So that's what I encourage everyone. Whatever it's going through, whatever goal you have, you want to accomplish, or whatever is next in your life, such as having a kid, it's just taking that day at a time. Not thinking so much of like, oh, what am I going to do when he gets to high school? Yeah. Or he or she, whatever it may be. Yeah. It's just not so much what's going to happen so many years from now. I think it's good to have those goals I want to get out in 5 years and I want to work in this field for that many years. It's okay to have those goals to strive to, but it's also good to have those more closer achievable goals, more near
Yeah.
future goals. So for such as your example, it's for your situation, it's okay, getting it like you said, like how you're doing everything now is saving money, getting ready, buying the diapers, getting a room ready for the child, and so it's those small obtainable goals to make you best prepared. And then when you get to that situation, it's making new ones.
Yeah.
It's making a plan. Okay, let's start buying him 12-month outfits when it's 6 months out, because we know he's going to be this big in 12 months.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Well, we really do appreciate you sharing your story, Daniel,
Mhm.
for sure. And that's what the main podcast, this podcast, After Duty Hours, was made for. Is
Yes.
anybody who needed to have a platform to kind of express or advocate for something. This is a platform for people to do it. So, I mean, I would definitely encourage. If you know anybody else that would love to share anything, it could be really anything, their business, it could be a similar story or something like that, anything. We just want people to know that we want to provide something here for people, and for people to relate to. So we really do appreciate you sharing your story. Before we move into the next segment, we got one more. Do you have any kind of closing remarks? Maybe not for me, but anybody who's listening.
Yeah. Well, first thing I'd want to say to people is it's definitely okay to help. I would say it's better to be proactive than reactive with your situation. Don't hold on to things for so long. If you're going through a rough state early on, whatever it may be, get a hold of it then. Reach out. You'd be surprised there's people out there to support you. There is facilities. I've been to facilities, and I've gotten the support, but my best support has been with the people around me. And I just want to thank you guys, the After Hours Podcast, your crew, for everything that, let me tell my story. And if people, if they see me around base at all, feel free to reach out. I'm a very open, extroverted person. I'm willing to sit down, tell my story to them thousands of times, because I think it's only beneficial to them.
Yeah.
And so, just don't be afraid to reach out. There is help for you, and there's always going to be help for you. And if you can't find someone, just look for me on Global or something, and I'll more than happily help you.
Awesome.
Thank
all
you
right,
guys.
Daniel, let's we got a couple questions. We're just gonna run through these. First question: if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Superpower. Flying.
Flying.
Yes, I like to travel, so getting from point A to point B would be.
Yeah, like the movie with Will Smith, like Hancock, that type of flying, the one where it's just like, it looks like if somebody could fly, that's what flying would look like.
Yeah, I mean, would I like to fly like Superman, like smooth like a jet? Cool,
Yeah.
but reality, I'd probably be flying like that.
Yeah, man, that's super cool. Or wasn't there another movie? It was called Chronicles. It had three guys where they found something. It was called Yeah.
Telekinesis, all of them.
Yeah, and they made themselves fly. So that's how the whole movie would him be the camera. He would make the camera follow him. I think it was called Chronicles. Yeah, that movie was cool. All right, cool, flying. I think I shared mine before.
It changes every time.
It does? I don't know. If it changes every time, this episode I'll say teleportation, because that'll be dope. And I feel like some airmen in my shop need that, bro, because they be showing up with seconds to spare. You know what I'm saying? All right, next one. What is your favorite song?
Favorite song
At the moment.
At the moment, I'd have to put it a close. There'll probably be about two.
Okay.
"Count Me Out" by Kendrick Lamar.
Okay.
And
is that on his new album?
No, I think
Count
it's
Me
on
Out.
one of his older albums. I want to say it's maybe about a year old, 2 years old.
T-Pab?
Possibly.
Okay.
That
don't
one,
know.
and "My Way" by Frank Sinatra.
My Way. Yeah. Oh yeah, that song is good. I like the crescendo at the end, or whatever, the climax of that song. Yeah, for sure. And this is gonna be a crazy fact. I didn't even know who Frank Sinatra was when I was a junior in high school. A lot of people, my friends, were like, "What?" But I mean, I don't know. I listened to one genre back then. Well, actually two. It was like just like random rock. And then I ended up started getting into rap, and then that was the only two. And then I started exploring more, and that's how it became a hobby for me today. All right, next one. Picture yourself in a world where you never joined the military and you got to work your dream job. What would you be doing?
Dream job, without the military, it's definitely different. But I would probably say I'd go with another 2 again because I can't really decide. It's either be a cop on the outside or working in politics of some sort of matter.
Okay,
advocation, policy making, stuff like that.
Okay, cool, interesting. That's the first here. I think we had yours was you just want to live on the beach. No. Oh.
I just want to live in the woods and make pottery.
Oh yeah. There was Nor that wanted to do like beach and drinking. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we've had some cool suggestions. I think one of them was like they want to be a park ranger. We had one saying a park ranger. I don't know. I really love that question. You remember Chief Kelly?
I do remember Chief Kelly. Yes, I was here when she was here.
So she wanted to be a singer, right? She said she wanted to sing. Mm-hmm. Man, we didn't ever hear her voice, man. I bet you it went crazy, huh? Yeah. Yeah, but anyway, let's move on to the last question. Is there any advice you were given from an older person when you were younger that you didn't take that you wish you did? If so, what was it?
What I want? I would definitely say enjoy the now.
Yeah.
Looking back on it, life does fly by. You look back and you're like, man,
the good old times.
Yeah, but not it's just enjoy it while you're in the moment. Yeah. And that's what I try to live with my life now is, wherever it may be, if I'm in a really good time, I'll step back a little bit like, wow, this is really awesome.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things is just enjoy the moment. It's good to have, focuses
it's hard to
on the
capture
future.
It, man. It just keeps moving. Like it's going to pass. Like I think about I know this is ridiculous and this isn't the top thing, but like back then when Black Ops 4 came out and we were playing Blackout, the Battle Royale Call of Duty. Mm-hmm. And we would get on every night and play all night. Like those are some good times. But then we all got busy, jobs and stuff like that. But those are good times. Yeah. But I would agree with that advice because I think that's the most popular one is the one where it says. Well, you said it said in a similar way. You said enjoy the now. Mine would be what? Oh, I was like, I thought you were trying to get my attention. Okay, one was about, not to grow up too fast or like, Definitely. You know what I'm saying? Like, when the older person was like, what, like enjoy your young days or whatever, something like that. And that's one of the advice I really wish I would have listened to because I think it would have been more enjoyable in my high school years to kind of like be like, because when we became a senior, we're like, man, we're already seniors. We're going to graduate. And then it just kept moving and moving and moving. And then friendships, we kind of got distanced more time. It went on. And you kind of miss those times that y'all would used to have because y'all all lived in the same area. Now it's like y'all never have the same time. It's kind of like with your friends now. It's like not everyone is off at the same time or taking vacation at the same time. And if they do take vacation, it's for family, not specifically to hang out with friends. Now, some friends do that, but our friend group was pretty big. So, I mean, like, that would take a lot of effort. But those are some of the times I miss. But, no, that's definitely good advice that I'm glad keeps getting repeated on this podcast because I feel like people need to start enjoying now, and even though we're getting older, still enjoy this time now. It's not Definitely. Too late. It's not too late to realize to make good memories right now.
Definitely.
And don't take advantage of it. So we're just gonna jump right into a gift now. I didn't do much research on you, like I wanted to. If I would have knew you liked sports like that, I probably would have got something for you in that way.
No worries.
But the podcast, we like to give a little gift to our guests. So we got this for you, and it's our squadron coin.
You guys didn't have to do that, but I appreciate it. Well,
but there it is.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's much appreciated. I mean, you guys didn't have to do that, but it's really nice of you. No, it's just thank you for the opportunity. It means a lot to me. So that's what I tell people, while I get out my story, I'm trying to go to multiple places, multiple events, because I want to keep on, kind of explaining that to people. And so you guys giving me that opportunity has been, a blessing, so to speak. You guys have been really awesome, your crew and stuff. So I wanted to thank you guys.
Yeah. Look at the coin real quick.
Yes.
Don't mention it, but let me see. Right here. You love us, right?
You know what? Sorry, I know you.
No, you're good. I could cut that out. Yeah, you're about to figure out what he said, but his voice is gonna be muted. So good luck.
I love your squadron because you guys help us in so many ways. In a sort of way, I kind of feel bad that my squadron kind of puts, what we put you guys through.
Yeah.
But no, thank you. Yeah, we'll cut that out.
Yeah. No, you're good, man. I just knew if you looked at the coin, actually that side of it, you'd be like, oh, okay. No, but it's all
appreciate you
good.
guys.
At the same time, like, look, a part of the ROEs of this podcast is like we don't want to kind of affiliate too much with our squadrons, but at the same time, we work there, and I like the culture that
Team, one fight.
yeah, one team, one fight. I like the
Definitely.
culture that we've built, and everyone tries to do their best to make it a family, and I think the effort is what matters.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate it. We all scratch each other's back. And
Definitely.
I love what I do. I love the position I am in now,
Mm-hmm.
supporting my family
That's good.
financially in every way possible. And I think the military gave me that opportunity because I don't think I could have done that in the civilian sector, or it would have been really tough. It would have been tougher. But any closing remarks?
No, just I want to tell people after they listen to my story. One of my biggest idols growing up is JFK, and so with mental health, it starts with us. And he stated that once: if not us, then who? If not now, when? So I just want people to take that initiative and start looking out for one another, as you guys stated, one team, one fight, regardless of AFSC. If you see someone struggling, don't be afraid to reach out. We can all use each other's help sometime.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Daniel,
Thank you guys
for
very
being
much.
a part of the podcast this episode. And that'll do it, folks. That is the conclusion of this episode 15 of the After Duty Hours podcast. I've been your host, Renee Flores Jr., with my guest, Daniel. And thank y'all for every support that you give us. We just want to dial back and really give y'all something to, possibly relate to. I know this episode was, not usually like our other episodes, but it's very important that we bring up these topics because we want to help others and let other people know that you're not alone, and we truly do mean that. But yeah, we'll see you next time on the After Duty Hours podcast. Be on the lookout for episode 16. Thank you.